Hi guys, so I am just enjoying some coffee in my Daisy mug. I need a new mug for spring. This is kind of like my summer mug. I haven't found a really pretty spring mug yet though. Hopefully soon. I just wanted to do a little sit down chat about my last trip to California and going to Disneyland for the first time. As you guys know from previous vlogs, I definitely suffer with travel anxiety, but yet I also really want to see the world, and so I'm trying to push myself beyond my fears to do these bucket list things. And I'm feeling really anxious this morning, so maybe that's what reminded me of the trip and why I want to talk about it. I'm feeling very grandma chic today. These are clip-on earrings, which are so cool. I feel like I should be baking an apple pie. And it's my first time sitting in front of my newly redone mantle, and I think it looks really cute. So I did a vlog, I think in December, and it was about calming my anxiety and the things that I do to calm my anxiety. And I mentioned that I was under a lot of stress in my personal life. That actually got worse. It did not get better. So towards the end of February, I really just felt like I needed to get out of here. And I wanted to go to Disneyland at some point. I was thinking more in the fall. And because I had already seen Disney World so many times, I thought, you know what, if you're gonna spend the money, go somewhere new, push yourself out of your comfort zone. And so I booked a trip 4 days out to Los Angeles. But I think that needing that change of scenery and just needing to escape and have a break really helps me to overcome the fear. I did have somewhat of a sleepless night the night before, and I was definitely super anxious about it, but I just kept telling myself that everything was gonna be fine. I had been to New York by myself, Florida many times by myself, and all of those trips were wonderful, and this would be no different. I'm on the east coast of Canada, so Los Angeles is pretty much the same distance as flying to Europe from where I am. And I think that that was the part that was making me panic the most, is just the distance. But at the same time, I really want to muster up the courage to fly overseas at some point soon. So I looked at it more as like a test trip, and it was a great trip. It was wonderful. I loved it. And something really interesting happened on the trip. I met this older couple. I think they were in like their 60s and 70s. They were seated next to me. I was a little disappointed because I was originally supposed to be sitting alone. And right before the plane took off, the flight attendant moved this couple next to me. But they were super cute. They just kept like flirting with each other, which is not something you see a lot with older couples. And then she went to the washroom and he kind of just leaned over and made some jokes about how it was like the third time that they had been moved on the plane. And he also mentioned that he was a pastor and that they had actually just recently got married and they were going on their honeymoon. Long story short, he had been married and divorced, never wanted to remarry, and she never married. Anyways, and they fell in love and got married. But his wife talked to me for 5 hours. It was a 5-hour flight. We talked the entire time. And like I said, I was really stressed out about something in my personal life. And she just spoke so much wisdom into my situation. And it calmed me down so much. She honestly answered questions that I had had for years in that 5 hours. And I just got off that flight thinking, okay, I was supposed to be on this flight sitting next to this couple. There was no doubt in my mind, and that also helped me the rest of the week to enjoy my week and to feel like, okay, like I'm supposed to be here, everything's gonna be great. This is a nice little break for me from my stress. And when I returned from my trip, that situation was still staring me in the face, but I now at least had a lot more peace about it and not trying to, I guess, control the outcome as much as I was before. I know personally for me that a lot of my anxiety is around feeling out of control of situations. And so I feel like if I'm in control of something, I won't be anxious. But something that I have to remind myself of a lot is that control is an illusion. None of us really have control of anything. Life happens, things happen. I remember stressing out so much on my first trip to Disney World in Florida. I was so worried that something financially bad was going to happen. But what I found interesting was that when I got back to Canada, I actually had a financial situation here happen where my credit card company lost $1,000 payment, and it took me like a month of calling and complaining for them to find this payment. So I just remembered that and I was like, you know what? The things that I worry about in another country can happen here in my own hometown, in my safe little corner of the earth. I have a very creative imagination. So the scenarios that I make up of what's going to happen in another country is just, it's ridiculous. But it's moments like that where I'm like, okay, bad things can happen anywhere. So you might as well venture out and see the world. So I got to the airport and I found the area where they have the Ubers, and I was staying at like this roadside motel place outside of Disneyland, and I was about a 15-minute walk from downtown Disney. So once I was in my little motel, I felt very safe and secure and sort of like in the Disney bubble, because all of the hotels around Disneyland, because it's so far outside of Los Angeles, it's all vacationers and people going to Disney. There was a day though that I went into Los Angeles or Hollywood to go to Universal Hollywood, and I took the Amtrak and the subway and a shuttle to get there, and I was very anxious about that. I made a whole video of that separately. There was a very angry man though on the subway that definitely freaked me out. He was like 2 feet away from me, and he was like 6 feet tall, and he was like telling off these 2 young college guys, and I honestly thought that a fight was going to break out right next to me and these guys were going to come tumbling into me. But they stood their ground to him and he eventually backed off. But once again, that can happen anywhere. And I had to kind of take a moment and look around and be like, okay, there's a ton of men on this subway, so if a fight does break out, like, let them handle it. You don't have to stand up to some 6-foot guy. But I definitely get very, very uncomfortable around people that are upset. I did have a day that was supposed to be set aside for like a Hollywood tour, but like I said in one of my vlogs, I'm really not like a huge celebrity person, so that stuff doesn't really interest me. I kind of wanted to see the Griffith Observatory and the beach, so maybe if I ever go back, I'll check that stuff out, but I just really felt comfortable in my little Disneyland bubble at my motel. So I was there for a week and came home, no problems at all. My cat sitter had said that my cat was sick on that last day when I was coming back on my flight, and I was just so anxious about that. So I had called the vet while I was at the airport to see if I could get her in later in the week, and they said it was probably just separation anxiety, which I didn't know that cats can get sick from just being separated from their owner. So yeah, I'm feeling a lot more confident now that I can go even further. I've definitely been getting over my travel anxiety by just doing it in baby steps. I do a lot of little local trips by myself, rent a vehicle, go stay somewhere local, 3-4 hours away. I did have a trip booked back to Disney World in May, but because of my ongoing personal situation, I had to cancel that because it's just, there's a lot of stuff up in the air right now. Hopefully I will be there sometime this year. I'd also like to take my first international trip very, very soon. I have noticed personally that traveling alone has helped me overcome even fears that aren't related. But I think it's a confidence thing that once you can see that you've got something, that you're a lot braver and stronger than you originally thought, that will also manifest in other areas of your life. And it's been really eye-opening for me to see just how helpful people are. I always assume when I'm traveling that I'm just gonna meet all of these just hateful people and no one's gonna wanna help me, and I'm gonna be so alone and vulnerable. And I always end up with the opposite experience. So I don't know if any of this is helpful information, but I know that it's something that I really struggle with, and so maybe there's somebody else that's really struggling with it too. I did do a video on my solo trips to Disney World and talking about anxiety tips in that video. It's the same thing with Disneyland. I would have the exact same tips. I really enjoyed it. There's nothing like exposure therapy to get over a fear, and if another country or getting on a plane feels too much for you, start with baby steps. Go somewhere locally by yourself, go to the movies by yourself, go to eat by yourself, go to the next town over by yourself, the next state or province, and just make your way up. I think that would be the best tip that I could give to someone that has any sort of travel anxiety. And book that trip. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a colorful day.